Good morning, everyone. Josh of Severe Weather. Happy Thursday to you. The 16th, first day of March Madness gets kicked off, and we've got some madness when it comes to the weather department. Some severe weather, some winter weather, some strong winds, all of that we've got to talk about today. I'm going to share my screen with you here. And let's talk about this huge front that is expected to plow through the plains and into the south today and then move eastward tomorrow into the eastern United States. Extreme cold front, a lot of wind with it. We're looking at severe weather likely to get going later today over Oklahoma and Texas, spreading east and southeastward here tonight, and then carving across the Gulf states here during the day tomorrow. Heavy snow expected to form starting today across Kansas and Nebraska, and then spreading northeastward into the upper Midwest and into Ontario. Pretty heavy snowstorm once again in areas that really are probably getting sick of seeing the snow. Isn't it crazy to you that we've seen so much fall in parts of upper Michigan, Minnesota, and Ontario, but only you go 300 feet or 300 miles south into Indiana and Illinois, and you feel like you've just not really even had winter. You've had maybe a storm or two, but that's about it. Just really extreme, but that's kind of how things are going here. Even though we're heading into spring, we are still dealing with a clash of the seasons. Here's our water vapor image. You can see our storm center now across the Four Corners region. We did have reports of severe weather last night over the Mojave Desert of Arizona and southeastern California. We had some hail and strong winds. Now that storm is lifting away and is going to send moisture up northward into the southern and central plains. And that is going to advance pretty quickly east and southeastward here as the day wears on. A cold trough getting ready to push down behind it. So once again, it is going to be turning colder in time for the weekend. We do have winter storm warnings now in effect over northeast Minnesota, northwest Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan, as well as north central Nebraska. That is surrounded by winter weather advisories. We also have high wind advisories. Zooming out across the central United States, you can see Colorado also getting heavy snow today into tonight. And these are freeze watches and warnings for what's coming once again as we get to Friday night over parts of the deep south. Here's the GFS, and you guys can see our big storm here, strong upper level low getting ready to develop over Manitoba. And you can see a pretty strong trough that is positively tilted, but bringing instability northward here into the southern plains. And that is going to drop south and east over the end of the week into the weekend and allow much colder air to spill down into the Rockies, the plains, and eventually into the eastern United States. This will also trigger severe weather over parts of the deep south. And then next week, a much colder start to the week here with a trough in place. We are going to watch potentially a storm off the southeast coast here into Monday night and Tuesday. That does not look like it's coming up the coast, and here's the reason why. We've got a pretty progressive trough here in place. These two are not going to phase into one big system, so the northeast is off the hook early next week. Do turn your attention to California by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. I'm not going to talk much about it this video, but as we get into next Thursday and Friday, in my opinion, we're going to have a violent tornado outbreak here in the central and southern plains. Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, Arkansas. Do be prepared next Thursday night, about a week from today, for a violent tornado outbreak. But that is still off in the distance. You'll see the ridge does build back into the east ahead of it. Huge trough carves down to the south. Big contrast coming. So you've got about a week heads up here to be prepared for that. Here is the GFS model from pivotalweather.com. You can see this huge front just draped across the central part of the country. We are seeing thunderstorms developing this afternoon. Right behind it, much colder weather, a huge rise in pressure, snow falling into New Mexico, maybe northwest Texas here, as well as northern Oklahoma. So parts of northeast Oklahoma may have severe weather this afternoon and then some snow showers later this evening. But the bigger story is this trough and this piece of the polar vortex that drops southward into the upper Midwest tonight into tomorrow. And that's going to allow our low pressure system to track and cut right up through the Great Lakes. That seems like a common theme here, rather than the Northeast, cutting up through the Great Lakes. And that'll bring mild air up into southern Ontario, where it will be raining. But you get into northern Ontario, we're going to have near blizzard conditions overnight tonight into tomorrow. Things really get cranking behind this low as it gets colder and winds continue to ramp up tomorrow into tomorrow night. Our upper low drops south and east, and a major trough in place over the eastern U.S. And for the southeast, this really isn't going to be a big time storm, except maybe on the Gulf states tomorrow. But primarily, you're looking at rain followed by a much colder weekend once again. Here I am in Raleigh. It's 28 this morning. We're going to be well into the 60s today, maybe pushing 70 tomorrow, and then right back into the 20s for lows over the weekend. That is kind of the case here for many other parts of the south and east as well. Down south, we see a little bit of a disturbance that could try to bring some wet snowflakes into the Trans-Pecos, the Permian Basin, and the Big Bend of Texas. Not going to be a big deal, except maybe in the mountains if you're planning on camping out there on Sunday. But that storm system looks to be suppressed and then may try to get going here over the southeast as we get to Tuesday and Tuesday night. A lot of cold rain expected, maybe stronger storms in the Florida Peninsula. And there is an outside chance for some mountain snow accumulating over the western Carolinas and northern Georgia here by Wednesday into Wednesday night. But not a big storm for us. The bigger one comes here next Thursday, and you can see very quickly strengthening jet stream, very quickly deepening low pressure system, blizzard conditions over the Dakotas, and likely strong to severe tornadoes over parts of the south into Oklahoma and Tornado Alley. And we'll get more to that as we get closer to the event. Here's our snow totals today from the NAM. You can see several inches over the Four Corners in Colorado right on through tonight. Nebraska will see the potential for 3 to 6 inches of snow, higher amounts when we get up to Lake Superior. Through this time tomorrow, we're going to see upwards of 8 to 10 inches of fresh snow. But there is a narrow band of some wet snow that could fall all the way over the northeastern panhandle of Texas into north central Oklahoma and even into Wichita, Kansas. And Kansas City, we could see a few inches of potential quick snow coming. But the higher amounts look to be over the upper Midwest. You can see numbers are piling up here. Even in lower Michigan, along the Lake Michigan seashore or lakeshore, we could see 3 to 6 inches of lake-enhanced snow right through the weekend. And I'll take you up into the upper Midwest here, see if I can find it. There we go. And you can see amounts may get over 30 inches near Marathon and Thunder Bay in centimeters. That gets you between 55 and 75 centimeters of fresh snow, all coming within about a 48-hour period. So a long duration period of heavy wet snow expected right here along the Lake Superior region and right up into northern Canada or northern Ontario and central Canada. And we could see amounts up to 80 centimeters here by the middle of the weekend. Pretty insane storm if you think about it. All right, so let's look at our timing here. This is today on the NAM. This is 8 this morning. We see snow blossoming across Nebraska, moving quickly eastward into Iowa here this afternoon, into Minnesota this afternoon. It'll be raining in Des Moines and the Twin Cities here at lunchtime, but going over to snow showers here late this afternoon, and it could be an icy afternoon commute in St. Paul, Minneapolis area. We'll also see a change to some wet snow in Kansas City this evening. But down south in Oklahoma, we will likely have severe weather over southern Oklahoma and snow falling over northern Oklahoma around the same time here, around 4 or 5 o'clock. I'll dig more into this severe weather threat here as we get into the next couple of minutes of this video, but you'll see it's primarily rain around Indiana and Illinois. We may see a few flakes in Chicagoland around 3 or 4 in the morning, but no accumulation really expected. Most of our accumulation moves up across western Michigan and especially the upper peninsula of Michigan, and a few snow showers coming through here. We could have a lake band that creates some squally weather here tomorrow night. Coming in off of Superior and Michigan, kind of a dual lake band here, so something to keep an eye on there as well. All right, so down south, we are likely to see severe weather this afternoon into tonight, especially in Texas, Oklahoma, and the Arklatex region. We have an enhanced risk for severe weather, and likely we are going to see a few tornadoes somewhere in here, probably between 3 o'clock to about 8 o'clock tonight. Focused on the Red River, but that does extend into southern and southeast Oklahoma. It also includes the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex down to Tyler, Texas, and into Shreveport, and in the southwestern Arkansas. And there's a slight chance farther south we could see a tornado as well. More likely, we're going to see damaging winds down to San Antonio and back to Del Rio, and then all the way up into northern Louisiana tonight, especially overnight, and perhaps as far north as Norman, Oklahoma, and back to maybe Wichita Falls. But what we also are concerned about are the threat for guerrilla hailers here this afternoon. Maybe some major hail, especially north and west of Dallas and Fort Worth. When you get up to McKinney, when you get up to I'm going to name some other towns here in a minute. Ardmore, Oklahoma. I say towns. I mean, they're not huge cities, but, decent population centers. And the threat here in the hatched for significant hail, that would be over an inch in hail. And certainly I don't know why that's doing that. It's certainly something I'm concerned about. We're likely to see a tornado watch in here this afternoon. Probably not a PDS one, particular dangerous situation, but one that will include strong winds, one that will include potentially a few EF2 tornadoes and possibly some major hail as well. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of storm chasers out in this area later today into tonight. Now, overnight, things will weaken when they get to the Gulf Coast around Houston, Lake Charles, but there will be maybe a resurgence of severe weather tomorrow over the central Gulf Coast region. And this area is more confined primarily right to the coastline and just inland for it. We do have a risk for a few tornadoes within this region, but it's not a high risk. We do have a small chance for hail, less than 5%, but most likely we're dealing with more widespread squall line wind damage here later in the morning into the afternoon across this region, ending by evening by the time things get into Florida. From Pivotal Weather, I'll show you guys the forecasted radar, and you can see a few storms are going to pop up here right around lunchtime in southeast Oklahoma, East Texas, spreading up into Arkansas. A few supercells possible in here. The front's going to be back in here. As the front moves south and east, we'll see more initiation around what's called the triple point. This is the cold front, this is the dry line, and where the three meet is called the triple point, and that is going to be set up near Wichita Falls and in some areas here of southwestern Oklahoma. So when you get east of Altus, for example, and down to Lawton. So basically east of I-44, we see the threat for perhaps some intense wind and intense hail moving eastward here through the afternoon hours. This is the area most concerning. And it may get all the way up to Oklahoma City, but more likely south of you in Oklahoma City. That line moves southeastward into the Dallas-Fort Worth region around 6 to 8 o'clock tonight. There will likely be some strong winds and hail, maybe a tornado warning. And you can see there's kind of two lines of storms to watch tonight. One leading out from northwest Louisiana up into northeastern Arkansas, and the second one behind it actually comes with the cold front. So this first one in here could rob the second one of the potential for severe weather tonight, because we're losing some instability. It'll be getting a little cooler and we're losing daylight, of course. So we do want to watch this area out ahead of the main front for potential severe weather around 8, 9 o'clock. I'll pull up a sounding in here and you can see while it's not showing potentially a hazardous situation, it does show quite a bit of wind shear from the southerly winds at the surface to west-southwesterly winds ripping through in the 300 to 700 millibar layer. It's very saturated as well. So definitely a potential for some severe weather, even though the sounding doesn't show it. So that's what I'll be watching. And as we zoom in into Oklahoma, whoops. Yeah, sorry about that. You guys can see things getting going here. In the midday and early afternoon hours over southeast Oklahoma, and then around Oklahoma City around 2, 3 o'clock, and then around Lawton around 4 o'clock, Wichita Falls around 5 o'clock, and very intense storms crossing the Red River here right around 7 o'clock, moving towards Sherman and Paris, Texas, and perhaps even as far north as McAllister, Oklahoma. Zooming farther south and east, let me take that back in time for you. You can see things moving very quickly through North Texas here, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, moving through Fort Worth around 7, Dallas around 8, heading through Frisco around 8 to 9 o'clock, Tyler 9 to 10 o'clock, Shreveport around midnight to 2 in the morning, Lufkin, and all the way down into the Woodlands here late tonight. Let me zoom in and show you all southeast Texas real quick as well, because I know a lot of y'all are watching from there. And it shouldn't be too bad an afternoon, but here's our front that moves through right at midnight, locally damaging winds, moving through Round Rock and Austin, and then up to about Lufkin at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. San Antonio could get hit with strong winds right around 1 or 2 in the morning, Houston around 2 or 3 in the morning, and then Beaumont, Lake Charles right around 5 a.m. By the time we get past this squall line, these storms will be elevated, less likely to produce any kind of tornadoes, and a lot less likely to produce hail, more likely just some heavy rain and thunderstorms by 7 in the morning. And I'll take you over to Louisiana as well. I meant to do that, sorry. Louisiana, we are looking at storms moving through here overnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, weakening some when they hit Alexandria around 5 or 6. Same for Jackson. And then when we get to southeast Louisiana around lunchtime, we've got to watch for intense winds picking back up here tomorrow around lunchtime, New Orleans around 2 in the afternoon, and Gulfport to Mobile around 3 to 4 in the afternoon. Here's our temperatures. You can see these extremes here today. We're going to be in the mid 80s all the way into into the big sky country of Texas. But look at this front here. We go from 84 to 52 in about an hour here this afternoon around 5 o'clock. And that front just carves straight down. So we're in the 70s here overnight in South Texas, dropping into the 50s by daybreak and 40s in the morning tomorrow. We don't warm up much tomorrow. Houston will not get out of the 40s and low 50s. Austin may not get out of the mid 40s. Shreveport may not get out of the low 40s. So a huge drop in temperature. This is an extreme front as we see that dropping through. And you can see spring here on the Gulf meets winter to the north, coming down all the way into Texas right on through the weekend. Quite the front moving through. We'll look a little bit farther east here into tomorrow's weather, and we'll see rain and thunderstorms moving through Alabama. Probably nothing severe at this point tomorrow morning. But we may see a resurgence of severe weather all the way up to Columbus and Phoenix City around 5, 6 o'clock, Mobile around 4 or 5 o'clock, Dothan about 7, 8 o'clock, Enterprise around 7 o'clock, and then tracking through southwest Georgia early in the evening. I don't think we'll see a lot of severe weather at this point. And let me take you eastward here to the Carolinas or Georgia, South Carolina. And unlikely to see severe weather. We're probably just going to see showers moving in, maybe a few thunderstorms around Atlanta and Athens in the afternoon into the early evening. Then Augusta and Columbia get hit with rain and embedded thunderstorms around 9, 10 o'clock. And then things are quickly fading as we get past midnight here tomorrow night. Just going to be some showers across the central and eastern Carolinas, the PD River Basin, and then eventually the lower Savannah Valley here before daybreak Saturday. Most of this will dry out Saturday morning, but it could still be cloudy and damp across parts of this region. So definitely Sunday looking like the better of the 2 days this weekend. All righty, showed you guys snow. Let's look east here. Let's look at timing this out for the Great Lakes and Northeast. And you can see rain will move into the Great Lakes here overnight tonight. This is around 1 in the morning Eastern. And tomorrow morning moving through New York, Pennsylvania. Pretty incredible that we're going from places that got 3 to 4 feet of snow here to rain on Friday afternoon, but that is how things are going to work out. Northern New England will start out as a period of snow over northern Maine and New Hampshire, but then switching over to light rain and then drying out for a time early Saturday morning. Now, we could see some wet snowflakes here in West Virginia and southwestern Virginia on the backside of this as soon as dusk, around 8 o'clock here on Friday. So it's going to drop pretty quickly temperature-wise, but the NAM is now kind of killing any chances of any kind of snow falling on the backside here from northern Virginia up into the New York City area. So it's just going to be rain and then quickly turning windier and colder as we get to the start of the weekend. And here I'll zoom in and show you western PA and West Virginia, and primarily looking at over 2,500 feet up, some wet snow around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock here. And maybe even down into the North Carolina mountains briefly. Beech Mountain, Sugar Mountain could see a brief amount of light snow early in the evening on Saturday, but temperatures are going to be a little bit too warm for much to accumulate, except maybe right here in West Virginia up to western Maryland and far southwestern Pennsylvania, south of Latrobe here. You can see these temperatures going through a roller coaster here. A cold morning and then a milder afternoon, 50s and 60s, 40s in the higher ground. Tonight will be much milder, 40s across most of this area, 50s in West Virginia, even pushing the upper 50s near Huntington and Charleston here tonight. Tomorrow, though, temperatures stay there and then they drop very quickly in the afternoon. So 60s in the panhandle of Virginia or West Virginia and into central Maryland tomorrow afternoon. And then temperatures quickly dropping. You'll see 60s here and 30s and 40s in western West Virginia in the afternoon, and very quickly dropping off from the low to mid 60s in the afternoon to the mid 30s in the evening, and then turning much colder. So Saturday morning, we start out, if you're doing any 5Ks or races, you'll be just above freezing in the I-95 corridor. And it will get a lot colder here in the south. We see this drop in temperature here Sunday, especially West Texas and New Mexico, and staying cold early next week across the entire eastern part of the country. But Wednesday into Thursday, we do warm up very quickly ahead of our next storm system. Look at this contrast here on the European ensemble. And Thursday afternoon, where we see the warm and the cold clash, is where we're likely to see severe weather across this region. This is Thursday afternoon. It'll be a warm Friday across the eastern U.S., but then turning much colder again over the weekend. It's like we're in a pattern where the plains get hit every Thursday, the east on Friday, then colder on Saturday. That pattern does not shake itself here at all next week. And you'll see it's going to be a much chillier end to the month of March with respect to average, with warming not too likely, except maybe here in the high plains by the end of the month. Here's our jet stream from the European ensemble. This is next Thursday, and looks like a major outbreak likely to occur in this region here. Strong winds moving through, and then maybe even across the southeast on Friday, and then things should quiet down by the weekend. All right, folks, thank you so much for your time today. Hope you all stay safe down south. Hope you stay warm up north and in the Rockies. And if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, I very much would appreciate that. I thank you for your time. I thank God for giving me the opportunity to do this every day as a Christian man. I am doing this, giving God all the glory. 1 Corinthians 10:13, whatever you do everything for the glory of God. And I very much subscribe to that when I do this. When I do this discussion every day for you guys, spending 15, 20, 25 minutes in front of the computer has never been something I've been comfortable with, but I know I'm doing it to serve God and to serve other believers and even non-believers. If I can reach you just with any prayer requests, I'm happy to do that. Excuse me. The weather changing here is between the pollen and the cold, it's been something. But thank you, God, so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I really appreciate y'all's time today. God bless you. I'll talk to y'all again in the morning. Take care.